Hey, welcome to the Butch Yoga podcast. We are we are back. We're doing it. I'm Joelle, by the way. If you didn't know that, I feel like you probably know that by now. Um, but yeah, I am your host for the Butch Yoga podcast, and today we have a special episode. We are going to be talking about not like some idea. That was what I was planning. I was planning on talking about an idea from Taoism, um, but that's going to wait for another week. Today we are talking about the Butch Care Club. The Butch Care Club. Yeah. In previous episodes, I've talked about it for like a couple minutes at the end of the episode, but I want to take this episode to focus on talking about like what's going on with Butch Care Club. Because, well, first, I just got to tell you, I love talking about it. I talk about it so much. I like my wonderful girlfriend. I just talk to her all the time about Butch Care Club and pretty much everybody in my life. I'm just like constantly talking to them about Butch Care Club, and I'm like, hey, Joelle, you have a podcast where you can talk and people will listen to you talk about Butch yoga stuff. So this seemed like a good place to to talk about it. So let's talk about that. Butch Care Club. Maybe if you're listening to this, you've probably seen that mentioned or heard me talk about it already. Maybe you've seen some memes. Um, Maybe you've already signed up for the wait list to find out more information. But you might still be wondering what's going on with that? What's it really about? And like why? Why is that happening? Maybe if you're listening to this, you already know like why we would want to have something like this, but I want to talk about it anyway. Like what are my motivations in wanting to create this space? So, okay. Um I'm going to go through some different reasons of like why why Butch Care Club is being born now, why that's something that's being created, why it seems like a good like solution for what we have going on. And then I'll, just talk about some of my own like process and like how I'm relating to it because it's amazing even though it hasn't like officially opened yet or started. I've already seen positive influence of that happening in my life. So that's awesome. Very, very exciting that like it's already changing my life for the better. So yeah, I hope that it'll have that effect for so many butches and maybe you if you decide that that sounds like something that you would want to be a part of. So, okay, let's get into it of like why Butch Care Club. I'm going to list some different reasons here of like why. Um, so first of all, of like why Butch Care Club, because so it's like this is like Butch Yoga, and there's a lot of ways that we could go with that. Like I teach private classes and I love teaching private classes, honestly. I personally really love working with people one on one and getting to help them build a yoga practice that's like really going to like serve them in their lives, that's going to like help that person to feel like they have movements that they can do that feel good. Yeah, that they can just like do like every day or however often on their own. And then we like check in. I love doing that. I love that. And I've thought, oh, maybe I could just do all private classes. But the thing about that, which is the reason why I don't want to do that, even though like me personally, I'm kind of like, no, that seems like a good idea. Let's just do private classes. But it's like, this isn't just about what I want to do. Like Butch Yoga feels like a bigger thing than just like, what I want. As I said in I think the first episode, like this isn't yoga with Joelle. That's not what this is called. It's not like, it's not the Joelle show. It's not the Joelle podcast. It's like Butch Yoga. And so I really think about, even though I'm like the one who's doing it, I really do my best to take the perspective of like, what does like Butch Yoga want? Like it's because Butch Yoga feels like something that is not it's not just me. It's absolutely not just me. It's like this like different kind of entity or something. Like not like in a weird way, but just, it's like its own thing. And I have to think about like what's best for this space? Like what does Butch Yoga want to become? And in thinking along those lines, it's like it wants to be a community. It doesn't want to just be private classes. Like Butch Yoga wants to be more community oriented. And it's because that's what butches want. Like we want community. I've heard it over and over from so many of you, from so many people about that we feel alone. We feel really alone in our identities. And aside from like hearing it from you, I know because it's also my experience. Like that is so my experience in life that even going to like queer events, I'm often like the only butch person there. And it's like nice to go to a queer event, but wow, the times that I have been able to be in more like butch or like masculine of center queer community, it's been amazing. It's been amazing, like life changing just to be in that environment, just to connect with more people who are also butch, who are also like masculine of center, who are also like in that energy. It's it's amazing what that does, how it feels to not feel so alone in who you are, to have other people around who like get it. And even though, of course, everyone's experience is unique, every like your identity might not match up with like everybody else in the group, but there's this like more common like understanding, this like shared knowing of what it's like, even with having different identities, even with having our own unique experiences, that there's this, I feel like it's easier to like understand, even if we're not like just exactly the same in our identities of butchness. Some people some people are cis butches. There are like queer women who are like cis butches who use she her pronouns. There are trans mask people, trans men who identify as butch, who are butch, who use he him pronouns, who use whatever pronouns. There's people who use every pronouns who like identify as butch. And I think that's amazing. I think that we have space for like all of these different identities, being gender fluid and being butch, like that's its own unique experience of like when you present as butch, of like knowing what that feels like, and that maybe you don't do that all the time, but you still share in that experience. There are so many different ways that like butchness can show up, that we can express it. And it's amazing to be in a space where you can see so many different versions of how that's expressed, and that we can share in that, like as community, that we can like listen to each other, learn from each other, make connection. And it's not just like, oh, listen and learn. Oh yeah, let's no, it's like, let's be friends too. Oh my God. Like some of the like best friends who I have made in the past year were from like meetups that were more mask specific, like more like Butch specific. And it's amazing what that does. Just like that, like shared connection. It's awesome. It's like one of the best things. And I want us to have more of that. Like we can have more of that. We just got to build it. So that's what I've been working on with Butch Care Club, is creating a community space that is somewhere that, again, it's not just yoga with Joelle. Like, it's not just going to be like we do classes and, it's all me. No, it's going to be a space where you can connect with other members in the group, that you'll be able to make your own profile page and write down like things about you that are important to you that you want to share. You can see other people's profiles. You can make posts in like a feed that is not controlled by an algorithm. Wow. With no ads in there either, like God, you go on like Instagram trying to see some Butch content, and it's just so many ads that you get in there too, aside from, oh my gosh, well, we could go on about that, but yeah. So there's going to be like a feed where you can make posts, and we'll have different like categories of posts. Like, we'll have like a selfie day and other kinds of like discussion questions about like how you like relate to yourself, and to hear about that from other butches too. Like I am just personally, I'm really curious to hear about what y'all do for, taking care of yourself. I want to know. And I want to share with you some of what I do to take care of myself, because I have learned a lot of different techniques, a lot of different like tools and practices that are so amazing for connecting with yourself in a deeper way, for finding ways to connect with your body, ways to work with your mind that can be actually so simple. Like hearing this, I feel like maybe, thinking of self-care practices. Well, for one, okay, so this is another reason of like why Butch Care Club. It's because overall, and bear with me because I'm making like a very generalized blanket statement. So if this does not apply to you, okay, good for you. Good for you if this doesn't apply to you. But this might apply to you, that self-care is harder for butches. Like, I'm just going to say it. Self-care is harder if you're butch. There's a lot of barriers to it anyway, like for anyone in, capitalism and all the shit that we're in, but especially if you're butch, self care is harder. Why? Well, there's lots of reasons. I mean, we could go at like kind of like a surface level, like actually like the surface. Like, let's talk like skincare. Skincare is kind of sold as like more of like a feminine thing. It just is. Like having all the products, that's like in the way that things are gendered in society. having all the like products to take care of yourself, that's seen as much more feminine. What's like the like masculine gendered version? It's like the like 5-in-1 body wash, shampoo, conditioner, like put it to change your oil in your car, it just like does everything. That makes it harder to get into just even like those kinds of like basic levels of self-care of like washing your damn face, like it's harder if that feels like, oh, whatever, who cares about that? That's like for femmes or whatever. I don't think you're really saying this, but like at some level, there's like those kinds of beliefs. And okay, so that was like more like the surface level of an example of like, how self-care can be harder for butches. Another example, which, hey, this is Butch Yoga, let's talk about yoga. You go into any yoga classes, it's going to be mostly cis women. Unless it's like specifically like a queer yoga class, or a trans specific like yoga class. Most yoga classes, I like looked up the statistic. I don't remember the source. Sorry, I don't remember the source, but I promise I read it somewhere. Sources, trust me, bro. Um, that like in most yoga classes, it's like 80% cis women. You know, and based on my experience in being in like yoga world for the past like 15 years or so, give or take a couple, yeah, I'd say that sounds about right. That they are mostly very like female dominated spaces, and that they can, it's not only that it's mostly like women there, but that the spaces can feel very feminine in how they're oriented. And it's not my favorite personally, like, don't get me wrong. I think it's amazing that there are these spaces because I do think society could use more spaces that do have more of that, like, feminine influence compared to like the way most things go on. It's like, yeah, let's have like this, like, gentle, soft, like, whatever. But for me personally, and like maybe for you, if you're listening to this, it's not really my vibe. I'm glad that exists. Like, good for you, everyone who wants those kinds of spaces. But for me, I don't feel so welcome in most yoga classes. And it's not because people are mean, people are nice, but it's like it just feels like I'm trying to like fit myself into a space where I don't really fit. And that's just like the environment in general, not to mention the way that most yoga classes are in the structure, which I can't keep up. I can't keep up with what they're doing. I feel like, like when the class goes and everybody's doing the moves, I'm a fucking yoga teacher. And mostly, like, when I go to other yoga classes, I'm like, I can't keep up. I feel like I'm like huffing and puffing and like everybody else got the notes and like I didn't, and like it's like this whole like choreography routine that like I don't know and just am like struggling with, and it doesn't feel so relaxing. And it can bring up a lot of feelings of like, oh, like this isn't for me, like I can't keep up with this sucks, like forget this. So I don't know if you've ever had that experience in a yoga class of like going and just struggling to to try to keep up, and it maybe feels not actually so relaxing, like, maybe you were hoping that it would. And it doesn't have to be that way. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. And I know because we've already been having Butch Yoga classes for like some time. Like, we haven't had any recently, but last year we had Butch Yoga community classes like just about every Saturday. And it was amazing. It was amazing to be able to have that space, to see what that feels like, to be in a space to practice yoga where it's like actually chill, where you don't need to be like struggling to keep up because we take breaks between like doing everything. I love that. I love taking breaks after like doing like every move. It's not like, oh my gosh, so many yoga classes, it's like this whole like flow thing. And I just, oh my gosh, that makes me feel like I'm just like the clumsiest, most awkward person trying to like transition between these moves smoothly, and like everyone else is doing it like they're in fucking Cirque du Soleil or something, and I'm just like, oh. No, but in Butch yoga classes, what we do is we do a move, we take a break, we check in. How does it feel? That's like half of it is like, checking in with like, how does it feel? And what's really cool is after doing a move, you can notice that things feel different. And a lot of times it feels pretty good. It feels pretty good in my experience and in the feedback that I've heard from people, that they feel really good from the practice, and they're surprised. They're surprised by how strong of an effect it has when it doesn't really seem like we did all that much. We're not twisting ourselves into pretzels. We're not doing handstands or headstands or anything like that. I've never been able to do a handstand. I've only been able to do a headstand by using the wall. I've never been able to do one like off the wall. And I haven't even tried to do a headstand in, oh my God, maybe like 10 years or something. So I want to say that about Butch Care Club. If you're like, oh, it's like a yoga thing, yoga is not for me, I can't do it, like, please know that it's probably going to be very different from most yoga classes that you have been to, if you've been to any. Like, that's really so important to me as we think about like, what is Butch Care Club, that aside from a space for Butch community, that we have these tools to take care of ourselves, and that they're tools that like you can actually use. Like, it's because there's so much out there. There's like endless kinds of things that you could do, but what does it matter if you can't do it, or if you don't feel like you can do it? So yeah, that's another point of like why self-care can be harder for butches, is because many spaces like yoga spaces aren't set up for us. They are like, people might be nice enough, hopefully, but they don't really have us in mind, because they just don't, that's not who they are. Oh my God, I just took a sip of this tea and it is so good. It's really good. It's ginger, lime, and honey. It's really good. I just wanted to tell you that. I'm going to take another sip. Hang on. Woo! Really put a lot of lime in there though. That is sour. But I like it. Okay. Um where were we? We're talking about self-care. Harder for butches. Um oh, one more thought on like the yoga the yoga stuff and how so much of it out there seems like just like it's for like people who are like in the circus or something and they were like acrobats and then they're like, oh, let's do some yoga now. That seems like a nice way to relax. Like, okay, sure, acrobats, have fun, like. But if you do not have a history in acrobatics, like me, uh, it'd be so cool. But no, that's just not, it's just not what's going on. No, I'm not going to be an acrobat. That's not why I do yoga. It's not like to be like, hey, let me see what kind of different ways I can move my body, like kind of, but not like, no, not to, yeah, I mean, okay. The thing is, to me, that's not the point of doing yoga. It's not like, what are the fancy poses that we can do? Like in a lot of yoga classes, they will be, working towards helping you build up towards doing more advanced poses. It's not what we're going to do in Butch Yoga. It's not what I do. I don't I mean, I think that can be nice. I think it's great to like work towards something, but it's not, to me, that's not like the point of it. To me, if you're like, okay, well, what is the point, Joelle? Um, to me, it's about connecting with yourself. Like that's really the main thing, is having a way to connect with yourself. And not just to stretch, although of course it's good for your body to stretch. It's amazing for your body to do some movement, like your body like really wants that. And that's like such a good way to take care of yourself. But part of it that's like so much more important than just like doing the moves is how you show up to it, that you approach it with this attitude of like, hey, I'm here to take care of myself. Like, I'm doing this because I want to like practice loving myself. I want to practice like being with myself, like building my relationship with myself, taking care of myself, taking care of my body, taking care of my mind. Because that's something else that like you could be going to yoga classes, any yoga classes, or doing yoga on your own, you could be doing it, and as you're doing the stretches in your mind, you could be judging yourself. And it's like, thinking like, oh, but I should be stretching farther. Oh, I could do this better 10 years ago. Or, oh, maybe one day I'll be able to do this, but I don't know. But like, it's like none of that is the point. Like all of that is just like different noise and stuff to work with to really like get back to the point that it's about just having a way to be with yourself, to connect with yourself, to love yourself. Okay, and that brings me back to the point about self care being harder for butches, because aside from things not being as, made for us or focused for us, there's the inner piece too. There's the how you feel about it. And part of why part of why I think, and like what I've heard from people is that self-care is harder for butches because of self-love, because we have a hard time with that. Self-love and self-acceptance. Like that, those those are such big pieces for us to work on. And I feel like you don't really hear people talking about it too much because so much of like being butch, I feel like it's about like swagger, confidence, it's like you show up, you're like running shit, but then inside there can be so much insecurity, underneath the exterior that can seem more confident. That inside there can be a lot of insecurity about if we are worthy of love. And we can try to make up for that by doing all that we can for other people, by really doing so much to try to take care of the other people in our lives. That can be, that's awesome. It's so beautiful to be of service to other people. But if we are doing it to try to demonstrate that we are worthy of love, it's like, ah, you are. You are. You don't need to do anything to like show that you're worthy of love. And aside from doing all that you can to show up for the other people in your life, it's like what are you doing to show up for yourself? What are you doing to take care of yourself, to show that love for yourself? So often we miss that part. We're like, just doing so much for everyone else that we miss the taking care of ourselves part. And like we deserve that too. You deserve that. You deserve to get the same care that you extend towards other people. Like you deserve to give yourself that level of care that you are so willing to share with the other people in your lives. And that's part of the idea of the Butch Care Club community, is that if we all get together and are giving that care, like, that we give to other people, if we give it to other butches, if we're like supporting other butches who we are like in this community with, it makes it a little bit easier to see how you can reflect that back to yourself. It makes it a little easier to see how, oh, if this person is worthy of love and they are such a mirror for me, maybe I'm worthy of love too. Like when you see someone else post about like, a situation that they have going on, and you write some encouraging message to them. Some of that gets through to yourself too. Like when we support each other, it's really a way that we can support ourselves and like recognize that we deserve that support too. So you deserve it, like it can be hard. It can be hard to really recognize that like you are worthy of that. Not just everybody else in your life, but that you deserve to have this level of care. And that like also like, okay, this isn't the point of it, but when you are giving yourself more care, it it helps you show up better for everyone else too. Like that can be one way to help get yourself on this path, of like recognizing that, oh, by taking care of myself, that will ripple out in positive ways for everyone in your life, for everyone in your community. And like that the Butch Care Club is going to be its own little community, and it's like where we can practice being in community with others. We can practice supporting each other. We can practice listening to each other and sharing with each other. Having a space to like get more vulnerable. Knowing that the people who are listening are there for that, that they're there for you, that they want to support you. Yeah, you deserve that. You deserve to have space where you feel seen. And yeah, going back to the practice thing, like it's like I said, like yoga, it's like practice for like being with yourself. And the like community part of Butch Care Club, that's like practice for being with others, practicing showing up in a loving way, in a supportive way, in an encouraging way. And when you practice in one space, it's like that can extend out more to other areas of your life too. And we want to practice like in a space where it feels easy. We don't want to go to like the hard level to practice. No, we like take it at the easy level. And to me, it's like being with other butches, that feels more like the easy level of like, okay, cool, what's up? We're like hanging out, as opposed to thinking of being in the world generally with just like everyone. That feels harder to me. That's I'm like, no, let's have the butch space. That sounds nice. That sounds, like fun, fun, but not only fun, just like easier in a way. Like more familiar, more comfortable, like you can relax more. Like you can let your guard down more, which is hard for us. It's hard for us. There's so much that, we're just constantly, and I'm saying I'm like speaking for myself too, of like, you know, in most spaces where I go in my life, I'm just like bracing myself to be misgendered, to not really feel seen, to have to explain myself if I even feel like it's worth it. Most of the time, I don't even feel like trying, because I just don't have the fucking energy. Wow. Okay, Joelle. Yeah, really? Can you tell that, yes, this is my lived experience? Like, god damn. Yeah, so maybe you relate to that too. That has also been your experience in like so much of your life, that you don't really feel like you can relax or talk about like who you are without like confusing people in ways that you don't want to deal with. But we can have a space where like it's more chill and like, okay, is everybody who is part of Butch Care Club going to like 100% understand each other? No, no, I don't think that. No, but I think that we can give each other a lot more like grace, a lot more. Yeah, I think we can give each other more understanding, even if we're not at 100% of understanding about somebody else's experience. That we part of the idea is coming into this space with a sense of openness and caring. I mean, it's called Butch Care Club, so the care is like the central part of what we want to be offering to ourselves and to each other who are in this space. Um, so let's see. Okay. Talking about different spaces, I want to talk a little bit more about. Wait, I'm deciding what I want to talk about. Just like 1 second. Bear with me here. I'm like checking my notes. Um, okay. Okay. This isn't gonna be too much longer. I don't think it's gonna be little, I'm gonna talk a little bit more because really I just have so much to say. Just so much to say about it. But we've already like covered a lot of the main points about like why. Why this is even an idea at all. And yeah, let's see. Okay. Okay. So, getting a little bit more into like the details of Butch Care Club and what's happening there. So there have been other Butch Yoga group programs in the past. If you've been if you've been following Butch Yoga for a little while, maybe you remember there's been past programs called Presence and Pleasure, which I really liked as a name. Honestly, it's not the most like descriptive name about like what is that program about? I feel like Butch Care Club is a much better name. But anyway, names aside, um, Presence and Pleasure was an amazing experience. It was honestly, I think probably the thing that I am like most proud of that I have ever done in my life. Like, can I think of something else that like I feel like yeah. Yeah, the other thing that I can think of that I feel like that comes to mind that I feel most proud of is writing my master's thesis. And but that was in 2008. Jesus, that's like a very long time ago that I did that. Um and like I was very proud of doing that. Now I I want to tell you about my thesis, but I'm like, no, Joelle, stay focused. Okay. So, why was I so proud of Presence and Pleasure? Well, because kind of like a master's thesis, it felt like this synthesis of so much of what I have learned over the past 15 years or so, of bringing together some of the most influential ideas on how I think about the world, that, ideas that have come from different spiritual traditions, specifically from Buddhism, from Hinduism, from Taoism. We talked about different ideas from those religions, as well as just like an overview of like kind of the basics. And we did, I think we shared about 15 different practices from those systems and also from a couple other random places. But yeah, practices that have been like the main ones in my toolbox that have, yeah, that cover like like a whole range of different areas of, from like your physical body to like meditations to like different like energy practices that are amazing. But okay, so Presence and Pleasure is amazing. So proud of what was built there. But something that I learned from it, and it seems like I'm always learning this lesson. I got to tell you, and I'm doing my best, and I think I can see how in Butch Care Club things are shifting. I'm like working on it. I always want to do so much all at once. That's kind of that's like a tendency that I have. I mean, I mentioned my master's thesis. My master's degree was an interdisciplinary program. That means it was from like several different areas of study. I made it up myself because I was like, I want to study four things. I don't just want to study one thing. I want to study four things. So I made up my own program in cognitive science, combining classes from philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, linguistics. It was really cool. It was really cool. And yeah, but also it was like, oh, I can't just do like one thing. I have to do so many things. So presence and pleasure was also kind of like that it was like, oh, we're not just going to do one thing. We're going to do all these things, and we're going to do it in 3 months. 3 months? That is no time at all. That is hardly any time to do anything. So with Butch Care Club, we are not going to do things in such a condensed way because there's also something to letting ideas settle, giving yourself time to work with a practice over time before jumping to another one. That's part of the idea. Also, then at the end of 3 months of presence and pleasure, like the previous Butch Yoga group program, the people who were in the program were like, it's over now? Like, what? It's sad. It's sad when things end. I mean, that's, could talk a lot about impermanence. There's so much there, and going back to like thinking of wabi sabi, that knowing that it will end, it can help you to appreciate what's going on, like while you have it, like knowing that that group program, it just was like for like that moment in time, and like that it was like a special, beautiful, perfect moment for what it was. But if we can, stretch things out more, let's do that. Let's do that. Butch Care Club does not have an end date. I don't know when it's going to end. I aim to keep it going for at least a year. Ideally, I'd like to see this going for years. For years. That sounds awesome to me. And like, I know that it will change. It will change by like next month, because that's just, what's happening. Like things always change. But to keep having this space where we can keep connecting, keep growing this community, keep connecting with yourself, keep having like access to like live group classes. We're going to have also like sharing circles where, and that'll be once a month, because honestly, I think doing that more than once a month, it can get to be a lot. But once a month sounds really good to get to like open up to each other about like what's going on. Maybe it'll be more. Maybe it'll end up being more. Like I said, this will all change. But right now, planning on that for once a month. And then 4 times a year, so like once a quarter, going to have a seasonal ritual that will help to like connect us to like the passage of time, the changing of the seasons, the changes in ourselves. Like that it won't just be like a yoga class, that it will be more than that, that will have like different magical intentions. Oh my God, the vet's here. The vet is coming, and my cat is, one of my little cats is having an issue, and the vet's here, and so I need to go. But get on the wait list for Butch Care Club, and If you're on the wait list already, then thank you so much for being on the wait list. And there will be information coming out soon, soon. I'll be sending that. If you want to get on the wait list and you're not yet, the address is bit.ly/waitlist for Butch Care Club. I'm so sorry to have to cut this off early, but yeah, the vet is doing a house call for my little cat, and I have to go get him now. So I'm going to go do that. Wish me luck. Okay, bye.